today's agenda, and that is the position of the Board of Health regarding the discussion and informal. Hey, guys. Excuse me, David? No. The agenda item is to discuss the Board of Health's response, if any, to the informal discussion at the last organizational meeting of the legislature, and the potential likelihood that some resolution may come forward regarding a directive relating to enforcement of the mask mandate in New York State. So with that, if I could just open up discussion on that issue, who would like to go first? I know everyone has.
Keith, can I say something?
Yes.
So I would like to say that as a healthcare worker who has physically sat with the pain of my patients and colleagues through the last 2 years, I was extraordinarily disheartened by the legislature's actions. I understand the political ramifications of this, but it felt like a physical slap in the face of all the work that we have tried to do for the last 2 years.
Okay, thank you. Other comments?
It seems to me that we're trying to react to something that hasn't happened yet, for one thing. It also seems that there should be very little political influence from the Board of Health upon the legislature, like none. I don't think we should influence their work. I don't think we should have any comment regarding what happened in the meeting on the first. I think we should just let things play out.
Okay. So, other comments?
Can I just,
Yeah, Elaine?
I guess what I left unclear is this is not an executive order, it appears, it's a public health directive. And as such, is it up to the legislature to decide what enforcement will or will not happen? That's what I'm unclear about. I don't know it's the legislature's decision to insert themselves politically in this.
Right, and that's why I think we should keep our noses out of it.
But if it falls to the Board of Health and the Public Health Department, do we say, wait for a resolution to come forward, which potentially will, that says we want the vote of the legislature to vote in a majority way that this county will not do enforcement? I just don't know if it's their prerogative to do, and that's where the sensationalism of all this will come.
Yeah, and if I may clarify, at least from my perspective, what I would like to avoid, as president of the Board of Health and as a former legislator actually, is a confrontation with the legislature over powers, duties, and responsibilities. And that's the reason that I'm in favor of some action at this point. Not a directive to the legislature, just as they cannot make directives to the Board of Health or to the Public Health Director, but rather clarification of responsibilities. If a resolution is passed, at that point, it's oppositional, and there's no way around it. Just as if we make some kind of a decision regarding enforcement, sanitary code relating to inspections of septic systems, or the restaurants, or testing, and we make that decision and the legislature takes an opposing position, then it's confrontational. If we can resolve this prior so that there's not a resolution, and do it quietly or publicly, then I think we avoid. The analogy I would see with this in terms of maybe we'll have our attorney address this, but the analogy I see is, since the sheriff, former sheriff is here, the responsibilities of the sheriff are defined in statute. The legislature may not say to the sheriff, we do not want you to enforce, give this law. You can't do it. The sheriff is independent authority. My understanding of the law is that's the case with sanitary code, that the enforcement rests with the director of public health under the review and advisement of the board of health. That's why we vote on when there's a fine. And there's really no difference in my mind for the legislature to pass a resolution that says sheriff, now Sheriff Skank, it doesn't matter who, to say sheriff, we do not want to enforce the speed limit, or whatever it is. That sets up an immediate confrontation with the office of the sheriff. There's no way around it, if I'm correct, Sheriff.
You're absolutely right. Absolutely.
So that's what we want to avoid. We want to avoid, I think that's what I want to avoid. I'll speak for myself here. I want to avoid a confrontation with the legislature over the specifics of authority, responsibility, and parameters. And I think the only way to do that is to communicate something. So,
Aren't those authorities already separated? Public health is public health and other laws are other laws. I mean, the sheriff doesn't enforce the restaurant or the septic tank.
that's correct.
So I don't see why we're commingling with the Cuyahoga County Legislature's business.
It's not their business. That's-
Well, if we're influencing them in any way, in any kind of support or the opposite of support, opposition to anything that they may do, then we are kind of
I see what you're saying.
cross-pollinating with them. And
Well, and that's why I think we need to be careful in our communication with them to not say, here's what you should do or shouldn't do, but rather to make it clear of just that. The law requires that the sheriff does these things. The law requires that the director of public health do these things, and you need to be clear on that, so that we don't get into a conflict. But there,
Yes.
yeah.
That's all right, that's all right. It's not
Oh,
on the
yes.
everybody knows, but I
Oh,
need
yes.
permission to speak, but just as a legislator now, and certainly as a concerned citizen, I'm understanding that the county health department has the authority to do this, and the legislature does not have the authority to overrule that. I mean, that's probably a Chris question. Is that a fact, Chris?
Yeah, as far as I can tell, I've researched it since the meeting. And the section of the Code of Rules and Regulations where this emergency regulation is inserted is what they call the state sanitary law. And when you look at public health law, section 324, local health officers, general powers and duties, subsection 1E says enforce within his jurisdiction the provisions of this chapter and the sanitary code. Period. That's it. So I mean, it's the obligation of the health director to enforce the sanitary code, notwithstanding whatever the legislative body says. The legislative body does provide and can continue to provide salaries for the director of health, for salaries for everybody down the line, additional resources that they may or may not need to enforce these regulations. They still control the money. As far as what, whether it's smoking, they've got a pretty big push for not selling cigarettes to minors. The legislature doesn't have the right to say we're not going to enforce that, but they can control the amount of resources that the health department would have to carry out these functions. If that's helpful.
Yeah, it is helpful.
Keith, can I say one more thing,
Yes.
please?
Yeah.
I agree 100%.
Excuse me, just one moment. I want to point out to everyone that David is now chair of the legislature, and as chair of the legislature, he's ex officio member of the Board of Health. And so he's not speaking now as a legislator, but as a member, ex officio member of this group. Because, and I see Trish is on here, and the significance of that is that the public, including other legislators, I will not recognize to speak, because this is a Board of Health meeting, it's not a public meeting, or it is a public meeting, but it's not a meeting to take advice or comment or whatever you call that. But you can say anything you want, you're a member of this group.
Okay, and I agree what you said 5 minutes ago. Yeah, I don't think anybody wants a confrontation between this board and the ledge, at least I know I don't. And I agree with you that if we can prevent something from happening January 25th, I would certainly appreciate it as a board member of this board and legislature. I just don't think we need a war. I don't think there needs to be one. If I understand it right, and correct me, Chris, if I'm wrong, the legislature has no authority to tell the county health director what to enforce and what not to enforce. Is that kind of,
Right. We've got the state sanitary code, that's to be enforced. It's not an à la carte kind of, we choose what to enforce and do the county. There are other counties, they have county executives, presumably county charters. They've restructured their county government in such a way that they do have these abilities. So, they control the money, so without the money, where you go, it's kind of the
Elaine?
Are you saying to me, Chris, that, the legislature, if the intent of what they want is how it was presented, that they would like to go on record to not have punitive fines and impose undue hardship on businesses? That is their recommendation, they could make it, but they cannot make, in your opinion, a unilateral decision that this county will not do this enforcement.
The State Department now put this into the state sanitary code. One of the obligations of the health officers for local governments is to enforce the state sanitary code. Not parts of it where, we may enforce, it's to enforce.
Right? And if enforcement by the public health department and the board of health is whatever it looks like, encouragement to businesses, support for masking, support for signage, encouragement to follow this directive, which I guess is in effect till February 1st unless extended, that may be what enforcement could look like. But the legislature could certainly go on record saying we don't want the businesses to be hurt financially by this, and we're asking the public health department and the board of health to consider that. But aside from that, they cannot pass a rule that says this county will not enforce.
That's right.
very well put. Very well put.
And if they were to try to put a resolution forward that says we will not enforce, it could be challenged in terms of their ability to do such.
Well, they're not the enforcers.
Exactly,
So
But
they can
that-
say what they want, it doesn't matter, right?
Right.
They don't have the teeth to do it.
right.
It falls under public health law, so.
And that's, I think, what's trying to get clarified here, actually. Because I don't know if that was so clear at the reorganization meeting.
It's not,
It was not clear at all.
wasn't clear to me.
Okay, are there other comments from the board? So we have I think the two positions, I think Brian is suggesting just stay out of it, let it unfold.
Essentially, I'll reiterate that to make it clear. I think
Don't do
because
it.
we have determined that legally, public health law and all the other county laws, sheriff enforces, they are separate animals. Anything that we say pro or con, or anything the county legislature says to us, pro or con, is clutter. So that's gonna be inflammatory. And sometimes the best thing to do is just step back. That's my opinion.
Yeah, no, I understand that. The other position, and this would be my position, and I think Dr. Archer's position from what she shared, would be that we don't tell the county what to do, but we do make it clear that the law is the law, and that while they may recommend whatever they want to recommend, it would be a mistake and illegal for them to mandate or attempt to mandate anything, because you can't do it.
Is that our business though, to say that to them?
Well, it depends if you think it's your business. If I come in here to the board and I say, as president of the Board of Health, here's what I want to happen, and here's what will happen. I'm directing you to do this. Is it your business to say, whoa, whoa, wait, you're one vote on this Board of Health? You have no right to mandate or direct anything. Would that be the Board of Health's business as a member?
I'm not sure if I followed you on that.
If the legislature is, and I think it's will happen, don't you, Dave?
I don't know, and I think that's another Chris question, because I think if it does, I'm not bringing a resolution forward naturally, but if it does happen, it has to go through Chris. I would say, right, Chris?
You have to approve it before.
And I'm not gonna speak for Chris because he's smarter than I am, but I would hope that it was explained to whoever who brought that to you, what you just explained to us. Is that fair enough?
Yeah, except the rules of the county legislature allows any legislator to bring a resolution to the floor
Right.
regardless of who's reviewed it. That's my concern. Once that happened at the organizational meeting, had that not happened, we wouldn't have an issue. I totally agree with Dr. Brundage. There would be no issue had that not happened, had there just been a discussion. But there wasn't. There was a motion that was actually technically illegal,
It was a, yes, motion.
but it was technically illegal, but it was voted on, and that's my concern. Once that's done, now there is a conflict. And,
It doesn't have to be.
Even if the resolution's brought forward, you say.
It doesn't have to be. We do what we do. This county does what they do. I mean, as a Board of Health, I don't want to make some kind of resolution to the county legislature that says the sheriff has to enforce helmet laws more, or DWI laws. But we have to take, I want the sheriff to use all the resources for DWI enforcement and nothing else. That's not our point. It's not our place, the Board of Health. It's not our place, the Board of Health, to try to influence the county legislature on what they do.
yeah, okay, I see the point. So what do y'all want to do? I mean, what do you think?
I was having some trouble hearing the attorney in regards to the legality of this. What it sounds as though is this is gonna go up the chain and then fail because the resolution is not legal and basically has no teeth in it. Is this correct?
Well, it would appear to be illegal.
It might not fail.
Yeah, it might not fail.
But
Might not have, maybe no teeth would be a better way to put it.
It would have no teeth, yeah.
So these individuals are certainly going to make their statement that they don't agree with the mask mandates, and they're going to say that they don't think it should be enforced, but they don't have that power, even with passing a resolution or whatever you guys call it at your level. Again, I'm not a politician. I don't want to be a politician. I don't want to be a lawyer. I'm a doctor, and I'm interested in the health of my community. And I do feel that we need to make some statement that says that this resolution is not what is best for the health of our community, because we are the Board of Health and it is our role to preserve the health of our community.
I disagree with that. I think we should not be inflammatory. It sounds like the county legislature is trying to get their feet on the ground, and they're having some turmoil a little bit, or maybe that's too harsh of a word. But I just think we should keep our noses out of it, because legally they're separate and distinct, and let's just leave it that way.
So, well, let's do this to move it forward so that let's decide first, I guess, so we have a path forward here. If the body wishes to just do nothing, to let it play out. And the best way to do that, I think, is, Brian, would you make a motion?
Absolutely, I would make a motion to do nothing and let it play out.
Okay, so there's a motion to do nothing and let it play out. Do we have a second for that?
I'll second for discussion. Is it your intent that let it play out until or unless there is something to react to?
Yeah, essentially.
I mean, do nothing at this point.
Right.
If a resolution at the end of this month is brought forward and passed that looks like this is the intent and the legislature is making the claim that they have the right to do it, that would be at that point to react to that, but not.
Well, I'd say
before.
reset the clock at that point, and we could discuss that again as a health board.
Would be clear on the process, if the time when a resolution will come forward would be Monday at Health and Human Services. So it's not the end of the month.
I'm not so sure who would bring it forward.
Well, I'm saying that would be the first time that something.
Or
Which
on-
resolution are
or
we
on
talking
the
about?
floor,
Are we talking about the
government.
county legislator resolution?
Yeah,
Health and Human Services, where did
Health
that?
and Human Services Committee, which is
Oh,
the
gosh,
committee.
all right, excuse me, but I didn't catch that technical.
The resolution process in the county is this. Every department has a committee to which it has oversight. Resolutions that affect any operation of that department come through that committee. In this case, it's the Health and Human Services Committee, which meets Monday. That resolution then goes to Ways and Means, which meets the week before the full legislature meeting, and then it goes to that full legislature meeting. So that's the normal process. I mentioned the other thing, any legislator can bring at the regular meeting, the full meeting, a resolution to the floor as long as certain conditions are met. So it's not that the committee process is the end of it, but generally speaking, that's the way things get done. I would think it's really a mistake to wait until the full body votes on something, if it looks like it's gonna be an issue. So whether or not you wait till committee, that would be another.
Well, let's say they were to pass a resolution, the county legislature, and they would say, and this resolution said something along the lines of what they proposed, that they were not gonna enforce mask mandates and harm local businesses. Why does that matter to us?
It matters to us because if we create a relationship in which this body is in conflict with the legislature, they do have power, not to enforce public health law, but they have power to cut the budget of the health department. And if there are members on that committee who take offense, umbrage, or exception to the fact that they pass a resolution and this body and the public health director says, no, that's illegal, we're not going to do it, then there will be people that will react to that without question. And the reaction will be to try to control resources directed at the enforcement of public health, whatever that is.
It would seem to me that there would be just as much of a conflict started if we were to start injecting health department opinions into the legislative body when the two of them should be separate units. That in itself would create conflict and bad feelings, which could escalate no matter what happens.
Yeah.
And that's the match. You know, let's see if they build a fire before we put a match to it.
Let me start from scratch one here. I think we're all thinking differently than actually what was brought up last Saturday. What was brought up last Saturday wasn't an anti-mask or pro-mask. It was just not putting the burden on businesses. That's all that I remember it saying. And Chris, maybe you can say the same thing, or?
Yeah, I think that was the emphasis, was that it was costing the businesses too much. I do have some comments regarding the cost to businesses.
Right.
Right now, their obligation is to provide face coverings at their cost for their employees, unless you have a large-scale indoor event venue with more than 5,000 people, then they must ensure that everybody is masked. Otherwise, I don't see a whole thing much to do for business at all.
Yeah, and again, I think the public is thinking that motion was saying anybody that doesn't want to wear, shouldn't wear a mask. That wasn't the motion. It was that we will not enforce the mandate, I want to say this right, on businesses because they let somebody in with a mask. Isn't that the gist of it?
With a mask?
Without a mask.
Without a mask.
Yeah.
The conversation was let people choose what they want to do. I mean, it did morph into a whole different
You're right, it did.
conversation.
But I think that was the original, and I'm not taking either side, please believe me, I'm not. I have my own opinion, and it's gonna be different than a lot of people, but I think that was the original, and then if somebody's come forward with a resolution to talk to you about, I don't know. But if it is, I hope that's all they're talking about, is the enforcement and the fines against businesses. That's the gist that I got about it, because I would never support, people not wearing masks. I believe in it. So I think we're all getting off track, and certainly the public is, because I'm sure we've all had calls. I've had a million of them saying, "What you anti-mask?" And all, and that wasn't the most. Again, Chris, right?
I do recall a conversation, leaning towards the impact on our local businesses, which certainly understand, we don't ever want to, affect our tax base, it's something that we shouldn't do. But I think that, I'm not sure that was everybody's motivation either.
No, I'm sure.
I'm sure it's not.
I do not think.
I don't think it was either, but I think that's the way that one individual brought it up that way. And then the discussion extended it further.
So here we are at the Board of Health, talking about all the stuff that's going on at the county ledge. This is exactly why I think these things should be separate and distinct.
Okay. So we have a motion to do nothing and see how it plays out. So let's vote on that.
Wait, actually, Tim wanted to say something.
I see it now.
Hi, Keith. I was just wondering if the board actually has our own consensus on supporting or not supporting the state mandate, if we've made that clear.
I guess I don't understand that question.
Do we as a group agree it should be enforced?
Has the Board of Health made a decision on supporting the state mask mandate?
Oh, I see. Yeah, but I don't think we discussed it, but if I may, I don't think that's the issue here.
No. I realize it's not the issue here. I'm just wondering
Oh, I see.
if we had a general statement that could be shared, not directly at the county legislature, but just in whether or not we support the state mandate.
Oh, I see. Okay. So is it your feeling that it needs to be taken up at this meeting, or should we take that up at the regular January meeting?
Well, I don't know. I guess it's kind of tied together. If we wanted to come out with an opinion on, not just an opinion, but a position on the state mandate, we could do that here.
Yeah. Well, I would caution against us taking a position on any of the mandate or anything else in the context here, because the issue here with the legislature is 100% the ability to direct, require, dictate what the public health is. And even if the legislature were to say something that we absolutely support, if the attempt was to make that in a directive form, then we should resist that, because it's not this is what Brian is saying. It's a separation here that needs to be honored. So I think that's an important thing, and I'll put it on the agenda for January, so we have clear positions. That's, and maybe have some staff to do some thinking about that and lead a discussion in a couple of weeks. So only a couple of weeks. So Deanna, I think you have a hand up. I actually saw. No? Okay. I was just making so. Okay, well, let's vote on this motion to do nothing at this point. Take no position, let it play out. So all in favor?
Aye.
Brian? All opposed? Opposed to the letting it play out? I are you?
I guess I'm wondering what the opposition looks like, I guess.
Well, we then take the next step. We got to resolve this first, I think.
Okay. Scott,
Can we abstain?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess. I don't think we have rules on
Then we would have a
abstention.
quorum. There's only,
It's a
oh
one,
no, we would still, sorry.
yes, you can abstain.
I mean, I feel like we're just watching the train crash. I don't feel that anything we do is gonna stop it.
Yeah, I guess that's okay. What do you think, Len?
At this point, you know, I might agree to, but I think we should do nothing at this point until there's something that comes.
And there, one other thing is.
Okay, wait, let's finish the vote before we're done discussing. So we have 2 yeses, 2 noes, and Doug Archer is abstaining. Is that correct?
I mean, no, I'm gonna throw myself in with the do nothing, even though I do not want that to be taken as not supportive of encouraging masking.
So then that's the decision of the group. So at this point, we're not going to do anything. But the thing I would suggest, unless people disagree with this, and it's going to be hard to muzzle them anyway, but 2 legislators have been here for the discussion. So we're not taking a position. We're not taking a vote to do or not do. Well, we are taking a vote. The board has decided we'll just stay out of it. The understanding that our responsibilities and the legislative responsibilities are different, but hopefully you guys will take back to the legislature what our council has said about that, and the idea that it would be I don't know what the right word is, but maybe not productive to cross that line. We're saying, if I'm not putting words in people's mouths, we're saying we won't cross the line. We're hoping that the legislature doesn't cross the line. Okay. Is that a fair statement? People comfortable with that?
Is that an official statement?
No.
No. Okay, if that's the case, then it's a fine statement.
The official statement.
That's the whole point, is to not make an official statement.
Yes, exactly, right. Okay.
Are we telling people to stay in their lane?
Yes, I guess.
Yes,
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it.
yes,
I
exactly.
think that's a very fair way to put it,
Is that, can that
Justice
be,
Ginsburg.
can that be an official statement
Stay here.
that the Board of
Oh,
Health
let's not go there.
should stay in their lane?
I love it.
Okay, so then we'll take up Tim's question, which I think is I think we all probably agree is a good one, and that is the enforcement of I would suggest it's enforcement of sanitary code, the extent to which
And Tim, if I'm not mistaken, those directives from on high from the State Department the State Department of Health are not really very clear right now, and they might firm up a little bit. So it might be a little premature to make a statement today. I don't
Okay.
disagree. You
Yeah.
should make a statement. But I think I heard that there was some weakness to their directives.
This current
This
directive,
current directive is muddy. And for us to say we support it or don't support it, maybe we should wait for it to clear, like in other words, wait for our next meeting.
That being said, Brian, I think it would behoove the legislature to rely on the expertise that's in the board or in the health department prior to making any decisions that are going to affect public health or public businesses. I think that's why the health department is there. That it's a supporting structure for the county government. And maybe even just a statement such as that would at least let the public know that, there's conversation.
That making a statement like that is kind of exactly where I was going from the beginning, is we shouldn't make a statement. And we voted on that.
And we will discuss this then at the next meeting, but let me clarify what I would like that discussion to be. That discussion be one around whether or not Cuyahoga County, the Board of Health is supporting the Director of Public Health and Cuyahoga County Health Department in enforcing sanitary code and and directives of the it's not that's not the right word, not the directive. The statement that the acting commissioner of health made, what are those called?
I thought
The
it
10.
was referred to as a public health directive.
It is a directive, okay.
Yes.
That directive is part of the sanitary code, because it was, so the question becomes for this body then, and we need to be clear on this, are we gonna pick and choose our advice to the public health director and to the staff of what sanitary codes you enforce and don't enforce, regardless of what we think about masking or vaccination or anything else? So I think that's a good discussion to have, and we'll have that at the next meeting. So, okay. So I guess that's all the business for today, unless anyone has any final comments. Okay. In that case, can I have a motion to adjourn?
One second.
Tim and Brian. Okay. So we're adjourned. Thank you all very much. I'll see you in a couple of weeks.
I'll email everybody the 2022 schedule, I promise.
Great, thank you.
Okey-dokey.
Oh, yeah.